That's great. The other thing you can do is you can actually look up who's in training and who's not on certain days. And
Do they post that?
yeah, the media takes pictures. And
Oh
so
yeah.
basically what the media will post is so-and-so not spotted in training versus spotted. So you can actually, if you have one of those players who it's unclear, you can look up and see if they were spotted in training or
Is
not.
that just like on Twitter and stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Nice.
So moving from the reasons that you are so good at the game and what got you into the game to last season, which just backs up how good you were. You finished in the top 5,000 in the world and top 100s in the US. What do you think brought you such success last season specifically in the game? I know you already touched on some things, all of the different methods that you have to evaluate whether players can play or not and who's going to be good. And you talked about the difficulty rating of the next matches. But what do you think was, maybe one of the most key things to your success last season?
Yeah, I would say number one, I stayed engaged. So, when I'm in the car driving, I'll just put on, one of the content creators and kind of hear what's going on for this week. What are people thinking about? I stayed engaged in that I knew not just what was the next match, but I started to look 5 matches out so that I was creating a team that I could easily make subs, move around, and I knew most of my players had good fixtures coming up. So I think that was also a big part of it. And one of the other big things in the first years, I would just feel like I'm busy, so I'd make my transfer on Monday, and then they'd go off and play in Europe, and then they were injured. And so I really tried to hold off, because if you transfer early, you can make money on your team. But I really tried to hold off and wait until the last minute for all my transfers. And I think that made a big difference for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so those were the things that you did, but then about your team specifically, who were the most key players, I'd say, because at least, you can always say Salah or De Bruyne.
Well, he probably will say Salah. I'm in the house with this guy every single day, and I know how much he loves Mohamed Salah, so he's going to say him regardless.
Yeah.
But I love how he plays. He's not my favorite player, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I will say there were key moments in the year. So I did, and definitely, this is not, some of this is how hard you work. Some of this is how engaged you stay. There's a lot of luck. If you talk to the person that wins FPL, they're going to tell you, here are the 4 times I totally got lucky. So it is just a gamble, and if you get lucky, you have to get lucky so many times through the season to actually win FPL. Because if you think you can beat these guys who are looking up the XG and the XA, and they know exactly the heat maps of all these guys, and they know exactly who plays well against who on the left side and the right side, there's no way any of the rest of us know more information. You just have to be smart enough, and you have to get super lucky, because those content creators they never win. They never win FPL. It's the guy that got lucky or the person that got lucky. So I would say the key moments for me in the season, one of them, I'll just bring them up once. One was Mo Salah, and that was the double game week where people were trying to decide whether to wild card him. I think it was like 24, or to triple captain him. And I triple captained him that week, and he just hauled. And so that was big for me. A lot of people had it, but it was really in the top, pretty split between going for a wild card and triple captaining Mo Salah. So that was one big moment. I got really lucky on Bruno. So there was a double game week where people are trying to decide whether to go with Ronaldo or Bruno, and Manchester United was just the worst.
Yeah.
But it was like, maybe this is the week, and I just randomly went with Bruno, and he just hauled. So that was another time. And with Bruno, I remember one other time where I picked him up, I captained him. He didn't do anything. And then I don't know if you remember this play. It was like the last seconds of the game. He got a pass back on their side. He ran all the way down the field and scored with like no time left.
Yeah.
So that was like my captain's points, so that was just totally lucky. And I think the biggest moment for me, I had a couple of really big weeks towards the end, but when I captained De Bruyne and he had 4 goals, that was totally luck.
Yeah, against Wolves.
And that was a big game for me. And that moved me like up all the way to, I think it was 2,500 in the world at that point. So I was down to 30,000, and I had a couple of good weeks. And then the De Bruyne week brought me up to like 2,500, because not that many people went on it. So those were my lucky moments.